I said at the top of the show, Australia was being changed. Here's one way we're changing. Have you noticed the culture of political violence lately? I mean, I don't want to exaggerate, but you take today, Sean Dillon, Liberal National Party candidate in next week's Queensland election. He said he was assaulted by two people wanting to shut him up.
We're about 20 kilometres from my house at the property turn-off, as we call them in the bush. I pulled over to look at, to see whether I could help someone. The vehicle that appeared to be broken down or in some distress, and I was physically accosted at that point and given some pretty explicit and expressly clear instructions about what they thought around my continued involvement in politics and what I should and shouldn't do, and a few pretty direct threats were made about the fact that they were aware of where my family were, and no, they were pretty clear in that I needed to keep my union bashing mouth shut and spend more time with my family. They know where they are; they can get to them before I can. I live in a very remote area.
No, it's just an allegation so far. Police are investigating the security story, but here's the Premier today.
There's clearly no place for that kind of behaviour in our democracy. Sean is a mate of mine. I wouldn't say that about many LNP candidates, but Sean is a mate of mine. He's a good bloke, and I'm sorry to hear that he's had those experiences. I'll reach out to him later in the day just to hear a bit more about it.
But the thing is, there are many other examples of politicians being intimidated lately. I mean, Federal Labor MP Peter Khalil just had pro-Palestine extremists vandalise his office yet again with red paint, a Hamas triangle target, symbol of a target that Hamas uses, also painted on a door, a liquid sprayed inside. And ACTU Secretary Sally McManus said on Monday she's too scared to go out because she backed the clean-up of the corrupt CFMEU construction union that was Labor's biggest union donor.
I don't go out much. I've had to change my routines. I live between different places. That's life, unfortunately, at the moment, because we're standing up to those people, and that there's a price to pay for that.
Joining me is National's federal frontbencher Barnaby Joyce, the former Deputy Prime Minister. Barnaby, I don't know, have you noticed any change in our political culture like that? Do you feel less safe?
I think most people who've had a prominent position have probably had a position, time they've been threatened. I've certainly had death threats and all that. But it's not Australia. I mean, what we see now is, on one side, is crazy, excessive correctness, which just sanitises it and takes it to a position which is unbelievable and just not representative of how the Australian narrative is. We are loquacious, we are robust in our discussion, and we're not supposed to take easy offence, but now everybody wants to be offended and take offence and, order us all to go through the proper process whilst they live in turmoil for the rest of their life. And on the other side, we've got people who really are bad and doing really bad things. And what we are seeing with this allegation of thuggery against Sean Dillon, and if that allegation is correct, that's pretty dangerous stuff. Pull someone over an outback road and then threaten to hurt their family. That's not Australian. And then what we're seeing with, even though Sally supports the other side of politics, she should be able to do that safely. If you've got an argument to win it as an argument. Don't win it with physical violence. This just proves the case that there is a problem. And the people who threaten her, you've proven the case. You're bad. And as bad, you need to be taken out of the representative process within Australia. This is, this should not be happening. But we can say that, and the bad people will always be there, and the evil will always have a space to fester and grow and choke out the flowers.
Barnaby, the evidence is now growing that Federal Environment Minister Tanya Plibersek was fooled into effectively banning a $1 billion gold mine in New South Wales. We've covered this a number of times. There's so much to it. For one, she basically ignored the local land council, which said the mine was not on sacred land. She believed instead another group of who knows who said it was the site of the blue-banded bee dreaming. But now a well-known anthropologist, Dr. Philip Clark, says, well, claims about the blue-banded bee being a totemic ancestor of the local tribe, the Wiradjuri, were highly unlikely because there's no record of this before the story appeared in the media just 2 years ago. Plus, the bees didn't make harvestable honey, so why would you make a totem of them? And Wiradjuri elder Neil Ingram said he's never heard of this story. Plibersek today, though, was hanging tough. Here she is.
Have you been duped into blocking the mine by a dissident Indigenous group?
Not at all. And my reasons for the decision I made are publicly available.
Joyce, what do you think is going on here and how can it be fixed?
I think she's been stung by a blue-banded bee. I think that's what's happened here. And it's got a very toxic venom. And it's having all sorts of repercussions. For some people, it makes them block mines. Other people, they buy houses on the coast. But what we've seen is the farcical position, absolute farcical position, that is standing in proxy for the management of this great nation. What the only good side of this is actually Aboriginal people themselves standing up and calling BS on this, saying, what is all this tripe you're going on with? Where does this come from? Because it makes a mockery of the authentic stories, processes, customs, and totems, for want of a better word, that's an Aboriginal word, of Aboriginal culture. If you just make it up as you go along, then everything's meaningless, everything's pointless, and everything's a joke, and everything's a facade. You've got to, there's got to be authenticity in this. It's got to be able to be backed by historical appropriateness. You should be able to go back and see source documents that actually back up what you say. But it was so important for Minister Plibersek to block this, but it wasn't important enough for her to get her facts right. And what an absolute farce they look at. What a joke. And you sit back and say, this person's standing in the way of billions, responsible for billions and upon billions of dollars of investment in their nation. And if you believe her, then she's been taken hook, line and sinker, and the bait was a blue-banded bee. Remarkable. If you don't, maybe if you have some doubts about it, you say, maybe she's just sort of changing the story now because it's all got a little bit difficult. And so, blue-banded bee was not really the bee she thought it was. It should have been a different type of bee.
Well, to be or not to be, that is very much the question.
That is the question.
Barnaby Joyce, thank you so much.
Noble in the mines to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune.